Hi guys, and welcome to another health call where today we're going to be talking about how to prepare for a healthy pregnancy in 2023. Many women go through a planned pregnancy, many of us go through a surprise pregnancy, and many of us have to go through some miscarriages sometimes. And it's good to have good information from the functional medicine side of things to really prepare your body to have their life coming into this planet with a very healthy body. So thank you very much, Dr. Bob, today for joining us on this call. How are you, sir?
You know, I am epic, and I've got to tell you, this is absolutely one of my favorite topics. My youngest daughter is actually due now in 11 days and progressing beautifully, happy, healthy, balanced. She's getting that final surge of energy that a lot of moms get just before they deliver. So she's hoping it's early, but I guess that's true of every pregnant mom. I'm predicting Valentine's Day, February 14th. Seems like a beautiful day to have a baby.
Absolutely, it is. Yes, absolutely. And it's so good to talk about it because I think that there is a lot of noise on Google. And before every call, I like to do like my research to like kind of like just feel my way through the questions that I'm going to ask you. And I hear a lot of different information come back left, right, and center. And it's good to have your point of view because as a functional medicine doctor, you look for the root cause, which I think is very important for us to think about this side of the medicine as well. So we can prepare beforehand, right? And
Sure.
I would love to start actually the conversation about some of the health conditions that may be preventing women from getting pregnant or impacting the pregnancy itself.
Well, there's so many, and if we wanted to name conditions, we'd start out with things like diabetes and obesity and autoimmunity and things like that. But as we start looking at real cause and functional medicine cause, we can find out what I call the deadly quartet: stress, toxins, poor nutrition, and sometimes either lack of physical activity or even too much. There was studies done on women athletes years ago. And it turns out that when women get too lean, their hormones become dysregulated. They stop having cycles. They stop ovulating. And, it's kind of like a created infertility because they're pushing their body too hard in a certain direction. But those are going to be the big strategies that have the greatest impact there.
Okay, so that actually doesn't mean that you are healthy just because you do exercise. You actually can impact your cycle and everything. So that for me was like a wake up call. Like it was okay. So it can have like the two sides. You said obesity, but also like doing too much.
Body fat certainly is an organ that has function, and in both men and women, it has a whole lot to do with hormones. Now, interestingly enough, when women don't have enough body fat, they don't have enough estrogen. When men have too much body fat, they have too much estrogen. And by the way, both of those are problematic for conception, fertility, and bringing healthy lives into the world.
When a woman is already expecting, is there some like changes on her diet, exercise, lifestyle that she should start considering? What would be your recommendation?
Well, when we start looking and we begin to realize that baby's brain is mostly fat, and that fat is an omega-3 fat called docosahexaenoic acid. And then you see that people are so deficient in it, if the baby's not going to develop a good brain, it's going to be hard to have a good life. And they actually found that it was a rat study. They fed animals a omega-3 restricted diet, and they found that the mother's brain could shrink by more than 20% in a single reproductive cycle. So the baby is going to take priority. So if mom is not getting in her diet, baby will steal it from mom. And that can lead to a lot of different health challenges for mom. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons that women finish pregnancy not feeling well, possibly with autoimmunity, and depression and other things like that. So if we keep mom really healthy, we have a greater probability of having a healthy baby.
Yeah, I remember actually it was going to be one of my questions when I was looking at the stats. It's like alarming, actually, like the postnatal depression and cognitive decline as well. And now you mentioned 20% in one single cycle. If that is the case, what are some strategies that can help with that?
Well, cold water plants, cold water fish are going to be, very good at having the omega-3 status. But I really think that every mom-to-be should supplement with omega-3 fats, especially the docosahexaenoic acid. And here's one thing that I tell people, I've taught nutrition around the world for over 3 decades, and it costs a lot more money to actually purify the fish oils than it does to harvest them. So you look at these big fish, they're bioconcentrators, and they bioconcentrate nutrients. That's a good thing, but they also bioconcentrate the toxins. And they have studies on animals where the animals have become infertile because they've concentrated so many of these toxic estrogens. So you want to always have as clean a source as possible. And let's face it, when a mom is carrying a baby, she should really take pristine care of herself. No alcohol, no toxins, moderate exercise, but not excessive. If I were a triathlete, if I had a patient that was a triathlete, I'd say, Mom, let's not do a triathlon while you're pregnant. Let's have a healthy baby and nurse that baby and then consider resuming to that later. But too much exercise is rare. Too little is way too common. And both of those are problematic for the baby.
When it comes to food, is there something that a woman should avoid? Like, for example, for me, one of the things that I think right away is once I'm pregnant, I won't be able to eat sushi because I really love it. So is there like a list of things that women should avoid, like not eat these things?
Well, if you're going to have sushi, you're going to want to have green vegetables with it as well, and maybe not use the deep water fish because they will concentrate mercury. That's one thing that can happen. But and then they're also a little bit worried about the parasite issue with sushi. And so that's one of the standards there. But there's different herbs that one could take to prevent that. But you know what? It might just be easiest to avoid sushi for those 9 months.
I actually want to ask you now one question that for a long time I was misinformed, and you were one of, like, it was because of you that I was started to look in the whole completely different way to birth controls, right? It's something that I started taking very early on. I mean, not very early on, but I was 18, I think, when I started taking it. And I never thought that that was something that could cause me any harm. Then you brought it up, the fact that it's actually not good for your health. So I would love to know your thoughts on birth control for young women.
Well, let's give the physiologic facts. Most birth control pills are a very strong estrogen called ethinyl estradiol. I tell the story. It was a couple of decades ago. I was teaching an endocrine seminar around the world, and doctors were in attendance. And I would ask, how does the birth control pill work? And the most common answer that I got back was, well, it fools the body into thinking it's pregnant. And that's inaccurate. It screws up the hormones so bad you couldn't get pregnant if you wanted to. And some people never recover from that. So by giving this very, very strong estrogen, you take a world that's already estrogen toxic and you make them more estrogen toxic to the point of becoming infertile. And that's not a good way to do it. I'll go back and share my screen on the Zoom again really, really quick, because I've just found this new reference this morning. They have these things that are called endocrine disrupting chemicals. And they estimate that there are more than 1,000 of them in our environment. And it would include pesticides, fungicides, industrial chemicals, plasticizers, nonylphenols, phenols, metals, different types of drugs, and phytoestrogens. And all these things are associated with infertility in both men and women. You start looking at that and you come to realize, wait a minute, we're having a problem. We're having a global problem. And then, by the way, they've even shown that these can be especially harmful in terms of triggering hormonal related cancers like breast cancer and or prostate cancer. And what the study also showed is that the most vulnerable period of a lifetime is the developing fetus. And that's part of the reason why they haven't proven it yet, but they believe that the estrogens are much more harmful to male fetuses, and therefore there's actually more miscarriage of the male fetus, especially in the first trimester, because the hormones are so messed up.
Yeah, I remember that it was one of the things that you mentioned on your reels that went really popular, because you mentioned something about like the toxins, like the levels of xenoestrogen in the environment, and that for me was like, oh God, I'm using like liquid soap, and like I'm using detergent to clean my dishes, and I'm not using gloves, and all these like things that you are actually poisoning yourself every day a little bit, and it can have a big impact. And talking about that actually, and when a woman goes through miscarriage, and that is something that I would like to know how common it is, because it's something that is not talked too much, maybe because it's very personal, but a woman sometimes feels guilty or thinks there is something wrong with her when she has a miscarriage. Like, how common actually, or how miraculous it is for a child to be born.
Well, it is an absolute miracle, and it's hard to quantify the number of miscarriages because they actually suggest that it happens most of the time before the woman even knows that she's pregnant. I think about the majority of women I know, and one of the things that we ask on our intake form, we ask women, do you have any children? Yes, how many? And how many pregnancies did you have to have that number of children? And more often than not, the number of pregnancies exceeded the number of children. So miscarriage, I believe, is far more common than even the world knows. But, and I shared, and it is a bit personal, but, my wife and I had a miscarriage. We had our first son, Jacob, and now he's 29 and a wonderful young man. But there was a gap where she was pregnant, and first trimester, that had resolved. Nature took care of it, and they actually called it a molar pregnancy. And when they did the testing, they actually found out instead of one sperm fertilizing the egg, it was two. And that's an extreme genetic abnormality. And so, nature took its course. And, again, I know plenty of people that have had miscarriage. We won't mention names just because, I don't have permission to do that. But it's, I believe, far more common than we know. But ultimately, here's what we want to understand. When conditions are exactly right, mom conceives and has a healthy baby. And if conditions aren't exactly right, then nature says, okay, let's try again next month. And so sometimes that's an early miscarriage. It can be quite devastating. We get that. And so Kelly and I lost the baby, I think it was near the end of the first trimester, and it was devastating. But yet then we just came to realize, okay, this was not going to be a healthy baby, and God doesn't make mistakes. And so we took comfort in that. And then, it's also helpful that we had, two beautiful daughters after that with successful pregnancies.
Thank you for sharing, Dr. Bob. I'm sure that whoever is watching this now or may watch this in the replay will find comfort in knowing that even healthy couples like the two of you had that experience, and so many others, and it's not because of you. Sometimes it's just like Dr. Bob said, it's just the conditions for that pregnancy wasn't ideal and nature took its course. But talking about nature taking its course and the pregnancy have to have like the perfect conditions, is there some vitamins and supplements that as a natural medicine doctor would you recommend for a woman to start taking pre-pregnancy or even during the pregnancy, but pre-pregnancy just
Sure.
to prepare the body?
Well, certainly all of them, so, all the fabulous 50 are required, all the vitamins, minerals, amino acids, proteins, carbohydrates, fat, fiber, and water, in doses that make a difference. So that plugs into Reishi because it has all those things. And that, by the way, is perfectly safe in pregnancy. But ultimately, they really like the B vitamins because the body does something called methylation, and that prevents genetic abnormalities. We want to get the good omega-3s. They've even suggested that there's a nutrient called choline. It's not a vitamin or mineral. It's not essential. The body makes it, but they can actually call it conditionally essential during pregnancy. But a really good balanced prenatal, multivitamin, multimineral, good omega-3 supplement. These are things that I think everybody should take whether they want to have a baby or not. And so why not have a little extra reserve? There's no harm in you being overnourished with quality nutrients. And they have this term overnutrition, which isn't accurate at all. They mean people are overeating food that doesn't have much in it, and then they become obese and unhealthy. And that's not a good environment to conceive or have a healthy baby.
Yeah, and you just mentioned here about Reishi having all the fabulous 50. I've been with Organo for a few years now, and I have heard many stories of Reishi babies, we call them. I would love to hear, Dr. Bob, one of the stories that stuck with you the most.
Well, we have many, and I'll share the most recent miracle baby. There's a woman named Kelly, and she's up in Canada, and we have a wonderful team member, Alana McLean, that shared Reishi coffee with her, and she fell in love with it and started enjoying it. Then a month later, she was pregnant, and she wrote her a really nice testimonial. She says, we've been trying for 4 years without success, and we gave up. We just said, okay, no sense in going through the disappointment every single month. And then a month after consuming Reishi consumed products, just like that, she's pregnant. Now that was maybe 11 months ago. So now this healthy, beautiful, amazing baby is 2 months old, and our world is better for it. I happen to think that anytime there's what we're going to call a miracle baby, there's probably a miraculous life of meaning and purpose ahead, at whatever that is for that unique person. And, we can go back a long, long time ago. There was a woman from Hungary named Marta, and Marta was told, well, you're never going to have a baby. So she didn't take any precautions, nothing, birth control or anything like that. And next thing you know, she had a very, lovely romantic partner, and, ultimately got pregnant. And then they have the picture of the wedding where, she's whatever, 6 or 7 months pregnant. Now they have multiple babies, and, going from supposedly to never have one to multiples and healthy and happy. It's a beautiful story.
Marta is one of my favorite because now she has two, and it's just beautiful to hear. And I love to hear her telling the story, because she's such a smile person. Like, she's always happy. She's always very uplifting, and it's so nice to hear, and knowing that what we have in everyday coffee and tea that we drink, and it makes everybody feel better in many different ways, can also help women to have healthy pregnancy. So I think I asked everything that I want to, Dr. Bob, but I would actually to leave this space kind of open for you to also share what other information you think would be important for women. I know you have some slides prepared for the call that you're going to do at 6 p.m. CST. If you wanted to just share a little bit more about whatever you find it's necessary.
Yeah, so it's a very broad topic, and, we have so many different women that are having challenges conceiving, and then they often go with something called in vitro fertilization. And what a lot of people don't realize is the success rate of that is nowhere near what they lead them to believe. It's like $20,000 per attempt. And, maybe 1 in 5 of a woman in an age category of 35 is going to conceive. And then with each passing year, the success rate goes down. By the time a woman's 40, it's less than 1%, even with IVF. So, I tell people that, there's a global movement entitled Healthy Moms, Healthy Babies. And the time to get healthy is not when you're pregnant, or you should get healthy now, and in fact, months or years ahead. And we mean ideal body composition, and be very diligent about healthy food choices and skincare. So when we were talking about these foreign estrogens, they recognize that every man, woman, and child is exposed. And they say the top 2 routes of exposure are home products that people are using every single day and not knowing that they're being intoxicated by them, and even the air that we breathe. And so if you have that awareness, like in the home that I'm in right now, we have operating room quality air. We have all the vents coming into a central area. They have black light, and I think an ozonator and something else like that, where the air is going to be perfectly clean. And people might think, well, if someone has allergies, that's one justification for it. But why not have everybody breathe the cleanest, purest, most amazing air, and drink the cleanest, purest water, and eat the cleanest, purest foods? Because every time you make a choice that's not ideal, you move your body in the wrong direction. And, Oxford came up with the statistic, and maybe they need to update it, but they basically said 1 in 10 women on the planet right now are struggling with infertility. And here in the US, we have so many infertility clinics opening up, but about 1/3 of the time, it's actually the male that's limited. And I have a young couple that came to see me recently, and they are elite athletes, and they've been having a hard time conceiving for a period of time. And it's both. They found challenges with the female, they found challenges with the male. And you might ask, how could someone elite, athletic, good body composition have it? Well, they're probably being exposed to toxins that they didn't know they were being exposed to. So, we put them on a good detox, a good stress reset. Luckily, they had the exercise, that component was well dialed in. And then even, make sure that all your foods are organic. Now, they had even unsuccessfully tried in vitro at one point in time. And the woman gained weight. She gained about 15 pounds. Well, and that happens often. But in her case, she was such an elite athlete that she might have had too little body fat to conceive. And when I did the body composition assessment, I said, this is a better weight for you to conceive. And if you gain 15 pounds and you're not used to it, that might be challenging for a lot of people to accept. But in her case, going from so lean, from an elite athlete to less lean, but still amazingly in good shape, a better choice for her. So as we start looking at this, absolutely everything counts. And, by the way, we would not want to do anything experimental. And we have to be very, very cautious about how we share these things. But, women of childbearing age should not be participating in a medical experiment because we don't know what's going to happen with the offspring or even the fertility. So I would certainly encourage women to read between the lines on this one. No medical experimentation if you're considering having a baby. Just chisel that in stone.
Yeah, we have to kind of like use our words carefully on that, but I think you kind of get the idea of what we are talking about. But yeah, I know that we both have a call very soon with Fraser, so we might have to bounce very soon.
I want to read a testimonial from Zach.
Oh yeah, Zaf. Yeah, please.
Zach typed this. He says, "Happy beautiful day. We have an Ganoderma baby on the way with my friend Tasneem. Maybe that's how we pronounce it. Her story's on the miracle of organo. She has Crohn's disease, lupus, fibromyalgia, taking over hundreds of tablets a month. Doctor said pregnancy isn't possible. Well, Ganoderma filled in the missing piece. A healthy baby is on his or her way. God is great. Yes, God is great. By the way, all of her illnesses are almost gone. So
my God.
What a beautiful testimonial, and congratulations, if I pronounced the name right, to Tasneem. And so here's a fascinating thing. We can't make any health claims. We just can't. But here's what we know. When you put something good in your body, really good things happen. And does the body take over and heal certain things? Well, it happens often enough that we have a whole group with thousands of testimonials that people said, here was my challenge. I started consuming reishi infused beverages, and guess what? Now I'm better. So we will do this again later. And when I do this at 6 p.m., I actually have a hard time reducing the number of references because this is such a broad topic. But I'll have over 80 different published medical studies, all showing that, look, the way we got the world into this circumstance was deviating from nature, by creating unnatural molecules, by people eating unnatural foods. And what's the solution? Be as natural as possible and zealously inspect all things, as Og Mandino would say, all things that enter your mind, your heart, your soul, and your body. So very good strategy there.
Yes, absolutely. I'm looking forward actually, because then after I do the edits for the replay, and oh my God, just even your call with Eric on nutrition was so good. I was like, so many good things coming from that call. But I just would like to let you guys know that next week we're going to be talking about hormone health. I think it's a very important topic, especially like we are just talking about how important it is for pregnancy, but also for overall health. So that's going to be the topic for next week. But Dr. Bob, just thank you so much for the time that you took out of your day to come here and educate us on the topic. And I'm going to leave the last few words for you, sir.
I'd like to wrap up with 4 questions. Why not finish with some inspiring thoughts? So the first question is why? Why did you take the time to join us today? There's so many other things you could do. Well, the second question is the answer to the first. Why not? There are solutions for people who are either struggling to have a baby or want to actually optimize their pregnancy. And that's critical. If we're going to bring a child into the world, why not give them the absolute best chance to create a beautiful and amazing life? Next question is why not you? Someone's going to take some positive actions to get better. And that means if you're a mom to be, you especially want to nourish yourself, get the right amount of exercise, the right amount of stress management, the right amount of sleep, all these good things. And men, we're beginning to realize that, there's a lot more challenges with men and infertility than ever before. In fact, we'll find out tonight that sperm count has dropped 59% in the last few decades. So something is not right there. And the final question, why not now? So the longer we wait to act on information, the least likely we are to act on it. Make a healthier choice now. Get a good, pure glass of water or reishi-infused coffee or tea. Do a little bit of exercise. Meditate for a moment or two. Tell someone you love them and feel the love of the universe coming back to you. the best thing that we can do is create healthy lives. So with that said, we'll wrap it up. And as always, I'm Dr. Bob Rakowski, absolutely knowing that we can all be happy, healthy, and successful. So I hope to see you next week. Good night or good day, and God bless.